Okay, I am going to have to try it again. Either that or I'll just record it because it says it's live. Okay, a very warm welcome to all of you for joining us here on Tadatmya Live. And just a few words to introduce you all to Tamal Krishna, who is our speaker today. Tamal is a teacher, storyteller, painter, retreat leader, and prayer coach. He was a monk for 11 years, based in Vrindavan, and he traveled the world teaching bhakti yoga for over a decade. Tamal also trained in Andean cosmovision and shamanism for 4 years in the mountains of Peru, and he has significant experience of Christian mysticism. He currently lives in the Santa Fe River Forest near Alachua, Florida. He serves Sri Gora Gadadhar and the local community and prays for the welfare of all living beings. Tamal will be sharing his thoughts and inviting discussion on today's topic, PARAMārTHIKA-ЩRADDHÂ, transcendental faith. So thank you, Tamal, and welcome.
Hey, thank you so much. It's an honor to be here in this Tadatmya space. Yeah, sit with you all. I'll make some prayers before I say anything, and hopefully come put myself under the influence of grace, that I might represent a living word, something that's truly beneficial and progressive and nourishing for all of our true needs. And then after making a little presentation, we can have some questions and answers and stuff, discuss more round table. So that sounds good. Let's start, yeah? Okay. Om Ajnanatirmirandasya Gyananjana Shalakaya Chakshurum Militam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namah Om Vishnu Padaya Radhikaya Priyatmane Shri Srimad Bhakti Vedanta Narayaniti Namine Gadadhar Shaktya Veshamunato Jalachandrika Ragamarga Jagadguru Vande Gaur Narayanam Vancha kalpatarubhyascha kripa sindhubhya eva cha patitanam pavanebhyo vaishnavebhyo namo namaha Karpura Gauram Karunavataram Samsara Saram Bhujagendaharam Sada Vasantam Hridayarvinde Bhavam Bhavani Sahitam Namami Shivaya Shakti Sahitam Namami Radhe Shakeli Prabhuta Vinoda Vinyasa Vigyam Brajavanditangre Kripalu Tadya Kilveshwandam Shri Purnamasim Shirasa Namami Gange Yachampe Yatadid Vinindi Prochi Pravaha Snapitatma Brinde Bandhu Duti Devya Vaso Vrinde Namaste Charanar Vindam Mukunda Murali Ravashavana Fularit Balavi Kadambaka Karambita Pratikadamba Kunjantara Kalindagiri Nandini Kamalakandalandalina Sugandhera Nilena Me Sharanamastu Vrindatavi Namaste Girirajaya Shri Govardhana Namine Ashesha klesha nashaya paramanandadayini Navajaladhara vidyudyotavarno prasanno Vadananayan padmo charu chandravatamso Alakatilaka bhalo keshavesha prafulo Bhaja bhaja tu manore Radhika Krishna Chandro Bhaja bhaja tu manore Shri Gadai Gaura Chandro Jaya Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shrivasadi Gaur Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare Hare. Oh, Radhe Shyam. Good to be with everyone. And those who may hear later, we're still somehow, this conversation still includes you. Across like a book, you sit with a book that was written 100 years ago under a tree, and sometimes you can feel quite an intimacy with the author, deep camaraderie with someone you didn't meet and whose words were left in the world long before. But in the same way, when we come together for attempts to articulate a holy truth, a living truth that brings light into the soul, into the mind, into our bodily functions also, such activities, meaning harikatha, they extend beyond the limits of time and space so that we can have, there are other people here in the room who are not yet here. People will hear later. And so thinking of everyone, I'm thinking of everyone, for all of us who sit here in this conversation, we are us. We are sitting in a we space, a shared space of community. And the sacred fire of warmth and affection for each other at the center of the circle of our little sangha for this conversation, let that fire illuminate our hearts and give us what we need. So, subject that we are going to discuss is PARAMÁRTHIKA-ЩRADDHÂ. I mean, that's the main point. That's the excuse to enter into a larger conversation, a more, I think, simple but sophisticated conversation. It's nothing enormously abstract. There's not 100 moving parts to this conversation, but there are a few. It's a sophisticated topic. We're going to discuss what is transcendental faith. And more deeply, the purpose of this discussion is really to discuss our self-realization, how to make better, tangible progress in the process of our self-realization. We have no use for sheer philosophy or sheer methodology. Sheer religiosity is actually becomes like astringent. It's not sweet. It's not healthy to have a sheer unipolar masculine so-called spiritual life without the feminine aspect of actual real-time living experience, not just ideas about a distant future that we're not touching, and not just methods that we apply today without any feeling of our own. We want to have a holistic living spiritual life. We have to fight for that, really, because the cultural conditioning, well, Kali Yuga, for one thing, is so heavily weighed, where the normal sensitivity of a human being is enormously oppressed by the weight of stress and fear that's in the ether in this age. So already we're enormously oppressed just by the distress and fear that charges the atmosphere. And on the other hand, our cultural, as especially in the first world, in capitalistic, 21st century capitalistic society, we're very product oriented. We're very obsessed with utilitarian, what's practical and produces the product, and that success is the product. And this is all very just like sheer masculine kind of orientation, whereas a feminine orientation is more process oriented. Like today for today, what's happening now, being attentive to the real movements of the heart and the real development of our process. And then the product is just like the fruiting of a tree. If you take care of a tree, if you culture it day by day, if you're in the process of watering and caring for a tree, the product of its fruits will come out automatically by the laws of nature, by God's design. So it's very hard for us to operate outside of a accidental projection of product obsession, and then compare ourselves to how we're not getting that product. Anyway, it's clear what I'm trying to say. We're going to lean more on our interest here is to come back to the living experience of our real self, of our love of God, and of the feeling of progress towards the goal of Nitya Prem Seva, eternal loving service of the divine couple. We want to feel like when you ride a bicycle, you can feel it happening. You can feel a pleasurable sensation of kinetic motion, wind in your hair, and just like your body feels like this, there's a movement that you can actually, if you close your eyes, you won't forget that you're riding a bicycle. You feel it happening. In the same way, we want to live a spiritual life, however far is the road to Goloka Vrindavan, however fallen we are and distance we have to cover. We want to live a life where we feel the kinetic motion of it's happening. It's, I don't have the exalted state to be proud of, but I'm also not so stuck to be worried and feel good. And it's happening, and that's enough. Progress. The experience of progress occurring is enough for us to be well. When we don't feel it happening, then all kinds of desperate coping mechanisms kick in and dissociation and things. So we're going to speak today, without further ado, about PARAMārTHIKA-ЩRADDHÂ. Means transcendental faith. And first of all, we want to distinguish two things. We're going to distinguish the difference between Lokika-ЩRADDHÂ and PARAMārTHIK-ЩRADDHÂ, and the difference between PARAMārTHIK-ЩRADDHÂ and Mokshavad. So first of all, Lokika-ЩRADDHÂ and PARAMārTHIK-ЩRADDHÂ. Shraddha means faith, but more deeply, it means Krishna Seva Vasana. In English, we have the word faith, and faith means like, I believe. I believe that Jesus Christ or Lord Chaitanya is my personal Lord and Savior. You can believe and have faith. But Shraddha is something dynamic. It's not just, I accept what I've been told. You've told me, and I accept. It's something that you're doing. It's a movement that comes forth out of you. It's a proactive movement of the heart, a vasana, a vritti, an active tendency. And what tendency? Krishna Seva Vasana. It's a tendency to want to serve God. I want to give something. I want to serve. Not just that I believe and I heard the right story and I believe in it, so I can consider myself saved because I believe. That is not Shraddha. Shraddha is the dynamic impetus to serve God. It's the first sprout of prema. It is prema. It's love of God, but it's just a little sprout. Like when a little seed germinates and it sprouts and there's just like these two little, I forget what they call them in botany, these two little baby leaves. It's the tiniest little boop, doop. Those are the first symptoms of prema, but it's prema. A little seedling is the tree, it is the plant. And Shraddha is love of God, it is prema. If you have a desire to serve God, you love God. It's not to be doubted. And that love, that impetus to serve, it can be more conditioned by our material bodily orientation, or it can be more inspired by a higher orientation. If it's more conditioned by our bodily orientation, it's called lokika-ＳRADDHA, like loka, like worldly. It means worldly faith. It means it's a faith that is prioritizing this world where we are now, the material world, and the benefit that we can receive by worshiping God. My bad karmas will be dissolved. I will be oriented in an auspicious way. Blessing will come on my home. I'll probably get my job, my health maybe will be protected. Like religious people throughout the world predominantly have lokika-ＳRADDHA. That means they have an inclination to serve. Even just like praying to God is also service. Like that's my main service. I just prayer is a giving of the heart is not service. Building temples and distributing books doesn't have the monopoly on service. Contemplation is service, giving our attention, giving our energy and time, giving to God to please God, that is service. So the inclination to pray, to go to the temple and wave a piece of incense and put $1 in the hundi box and to say like, Lord, please help me get my new job, or even Lord, please help my father with his cancer. But an orientation towards God where the impetus, the motivation of our service to God, of our praying to God, of our giving our time to God, of our bothering to be religious at all. Like, why bother? It's so, it's not productive. Like, I've got stuff to do. Like, why take time out of your life to be religious? Well, because you think it's going to be good for your life. If it's lokika-ＳRADDHA, that means you're trying to get auspiciousness for the world that you know, for the life that you know, where you're still identified. You're not really grappling with the deep conundrum that very soon, within a day or a decade or a few decades, you will vacate this body, you will die, and everyone that you love will die, and everyone will suffer, and everyone will die, because that's the nature of temporal reality. It's entropic, it breaks down, it falls apart. The construction of cells into a body, into a living being, they come undone, unraveled, and there's death. That's not going to stop in this plane. But if you don't deeply deal with that, then you have lokika-ＳRADDHA, where you're just still trying to in your little bubble of comfort and convenience of like, okay, it's like the ostrich who sticks his head in the sand. You're not thinking about the reality of death. You're not letting death be a real living presence in your life. The fact of death is like, we keep that outside, we pull the window shade, we're not going to talk about that, we're not going to think about that, because it's crippling to think about how everything you're doing will be destroyed. But really it's initiatic to think about that. It's crippling to only half think about that. Oh my God, how can I function? Why would I do anything? You lose your motive. But if you really think about it deeply, like face the reality of death, that's called initiation in most tribal cultures, is to go out and face to face confront the reality of your destructible vulnerability, and that there's nothing you can do about it. To fully deal with that initiates you, allows you to cross a threshold into a broader kind of orientation, broader values, a higher, like eagle's eye vision of life. Like, yeah, we're all going to die. So what's really important here? Those who don't really face that and cross that, they are stuck with, by default, lokika-ＳRADDHA, worldly faith. They may be touched even by something as beautiful as the gospel of Radha Krishna in Vrindavan. They may be touched by that. And their deity, they're attracted of all the religious options in the world. They're attracted out of good fortune and mercy to the beautiful religion of Radha Krishna's bhakti. God is so beautiful like that. All religion is good medicine. It's, properly applied. But really, I mean, it's hard for me to be objective as a devotee of Radha Krishna, but I studied everything that I could for many, many years. And like, I have not seen anything so beautiful and rich and vivid as Radha Krishna's bhakti. So it's natural to be attracted to that if we're properly exposed to it. But if we haven't dealt with the initiatic reality of our death and destructibility, if we avoid that, then we become lokika in our Shraddha, worldly. So even if we're chanting our rounds, even if we're doing all the same things that, ostensibly like the great Vaishnava saints are doing, we do what they told us to do, we may not be doing the same thing at all, because our orientation is like, for one thing, some people, they chant 16 rounds a day because they vowed to their guru to do so. And so it's like, I said I would do it. So the holy name is a wish fulfilling jewel. Harinam Chintamani. And if you come with a desire, like, I want to finish my rounds because I said so, well, the holy name is just going to give you that. Oh, you want to finish your rounds today? Well, here you go. You finished your rounds today. That's all you got. That's all you wanted. You know, that's actually, this is a subtle point, you know, maybe controversial point, because service to Sri Guru is a mysterious and complex. It's something that sociologically needs more attention, you know. But you know, the phenomenon of dysfunction and codependence, and who is really a guru and who is fit. Like, at what point does it become appropriate to surrender our will to a human being? At what point does it truly become transcendental and the most nourishing thing for our soul to do what we're told by another person? At a certain point, that may be really the truth. That's like serving this holy transcendent emissary of the spiritual world actually is the highest thing that you could do. And at some point, it's like, maybe that person is not what your faith compels you to think they are yet. They're in process, and it's a lot of gray area there. Yeah. But it's very, very easy for our practice of sadhan to become lokika, worldly oriented, to get it done, to do what I said I would do. And one example is that I've heard, I don't believe it's in I don't know if it's in like Prabhupada recording lectures or something, but I heard from one of Srila Prabhupada's disciples that one time he said, 80% of my disciples will go to Swarga. They'll go to the heavenly planets of sattvic enjoyment, which is as material a realm as the earth where we are, as material a realm as the hellish planets. It's a purely material realm. It just happens to be a realm of sattvic enjoyment, Swarga. You know, drinking soma and sporting in the Nanda Kanana gardens. And is it 80% of my disciples will go there? What? Why wouldn't they go to Goloka Vrindavan? 80%, that's an enormous majority of people who are sacrificing everything, apparently, for the service of Krishna. But if it's because the orientation is really like, I want to live in a temple with the marble floors and with the, like, you know, classical Indian music, the whoop whoop and the like mantras and the smell of incense and food cooked in ghee and creams and fried things and like the deities covered in flowers, like, are you really there for something transcendental, or are you there for something sensual, actually, and social and psychological, a sense of belonging, uh, an easy answer to the problem of death? Okay, I chant 16 rounds, I'll go back to Godhead. I'll go back to Godhead. So it's like, you don't have to open the door of like the reality that you're going to be destroyed. Everything that you orient to will be destroyed. It's like, you're not really dealing with and digesting and metabolizing the medicine of death that would actually give you a chance to start orienting to your soul that will last beyond death. And so instead, it's like the false ego identified with the body is projecting itself into a fantasy of a spiritual afterlife. But that false ego will never be there. So it's very easy to have lokika-śrādධā if we're not really paying attention, and if we're not living in a very adult process of confronting the whole challenge of being a conscious being. It's an enormous, multi-layered, constant challenge to be a sentient human being. You know, it's a constant fire. And not a lot of people want that. They'd rather take the blue pill. And so there's your lokika-śrādධā. In essence, doing spiritual stuff looks like you're serving God, and you are serving God. It's not that you're not serving. If you chant the holy name, you are serving, but why? It can be a lokika motivation, a worldly motivation, which, because Krishna and his bhakti fulfills desires, if your motivation is worldly, it will fulfill your worldly desire, and at best you'll be promoted to a more sattvic, like Swarga is like the ultimate temple life. You know, everyone there is super cultured. Here in this world, in the middle world of earth, planet, temples, you know, Hare Krishna community, you have to deal with so many dysfunctional characters, and it's a whole mixed bag. Like, the earth is between heaven and hell. So you've got like super dysfunctional people, super controlling, you know, dominating patriarch, whatever. And then you've also got like the beautiful atmosphere, Sattva-gun, and it's a whole mix of stuff. But Swarga is like, the realized fantasy of what I wished my temple experience would be. Everyone's very polite. The music is always good. The cartels are always on time. You know, there is devotion. You know, it's not Swarga without like Vishnu, without bhakti there. It's like a sattva gun cannot be fully relished without religion. Like religion is like the essence of sattva. You know, the enjoyment of sattva gun is like dharma and, you know, goodness. And so very easy, if we're not paying attention, to end up in a worldly faith. And opposed to that, counterpoised, we have Paramarthika-ŠRADDHA. Param Artha. Param means supreme or other, like Parakya, other. And Artha means like a desirable, a treasure, a wanted thing. So Paramarthika-ŠRADDHA means faith that is motivated by the supreme treasure, the ultimate attainment, the highest wealth. And also Paramartha means like an other value system. It's other. It's entirely other than this world's value system. It's something other, distinctly not Lokika. It's distinctly, entirely, definitively other than any worldly interest. It's not about your health. It's not about your bodily success or your family members or anything. It's about the supreme treasure of being in the presence of Sri Radha Krishna or Krishna Balaram, or whoever you're, you know, Gauranitai, Gadadhar Prabhu, like your own deity. It means that a wise, intelligent person who has been touched by the mercy of a very great, powerful soul has been pollinated with faith, Shraddha, a seva vritti that's inclined to Nitya Prem Seva, to serve in the eternal realm. Like, how can I'll never be fully satisfied in this realm where there's death and where there's quarrel and where there's, yes, you could become a saint here. You could have internal satisfaction. You could become like a perfect human being. That's a potential, and that's like the goal of our process, however many lifetimes it takes. But you could never be fully satisfied if you are a lover, unless you're in a realm that's made of love, where every single person there, every one of your friends and associates, and down to the bumblebees and the sentient wind that blows through the flowering trees of the forest of Vrindavan, everything is alive with all harmonic, symphonically harmonized, co-creative love of God. And that God is available, Krishna is available to you all as your own. You can have him as much as you want, in the way that you want. And he will look at you as if you are his favorite. And it's true, because he's subjected as the infinite Ananta, you know, supreme being. He's able to fully give himself to all of those who fully give themselves to him. So Paramarthika-ŠRADDHA means a faith that we're doing our spiritual practice, we're chanting the holy name, we worship the deities, or we teach, whatever we're doing that for one reason. There's one why. And it's like, I want something entirely out of this world. While I'm here, I may deduce that Krishna has a plan for me. I may be able to see, like, Yogamaya may give me some glimpse of the script that's written for me, you know, of my task in this world. You know, you can think about being alive in this material world either as like, oh, it's a hospital, I'm being cleansed, I'm being healed, I'm being rehabilitated so that I can enter into the spiritual world with integrity and like serve with integrity, with all egoism like healed out of me. Or you can think like, this is a day at the office, like I'm only here for my job. This life is like, I'm here to do a job. I have a task, I have a service. Okay, I don't have prema yet. Yeah, but by doing my job that I have in this life, I'm going to evolve in the integrity of doing service to Krishna. If I can deduce that Krishna has something for me to do in this life and put my whole heart in it, I'm definitely going, that process-oriented path will definitely bring me toward the product of siddhi, of perfection, and therefore entrance into Krishna's pastimes. Much more efficiently, I believe, than focusing on like, I've got to get me perfect. I've got to get my swarup. I've got to get my perfection. Like me. An obsession with me is not matching the obsession of the Brajavasis for Krishna and pleasing him in whatever circumstance they're in, you know? like Subal Saka. It says in the Braj Vilas Stava that Subal Saka, he is so attached to Krishna that he can't let go of Krishna's hand even in a dream. If he can't be with Krishna, then he falls asleep. It looks like he's sleeping, but he's just fainting in separation from Krishna so that he can dream and hold Krishna's hand. So attached to Krishna. But if Krishna needs help, because Radhika is in a man that his flute won't even break, that none of his normal techniques, nothing is working. Subal is so expert, so specially empowered to reconcile Radha and Krishna. So Subal, who cannot bear to be out of Krishna's company, will joyfully and blissfully leave Krishna on a mission to go to find Radhika, to console, to melt the man of Radhika and give her Krishna's message. So someone who loves Krishna can feel even more bliss by carrying his message. You know, it doesn't mean you don't want to go back to him. It's not like Subal Saka is like, Jai, I'm glad to be, doing my own thing now. He can't wait to get back to Krishna. And it's the same thing with like Mother Yashoda saving the milk on the stove. It's like Tadiya Seva. It means service to what is Krishna's. Is in the case of like Mother Yashoda or Subal Saka, like it's even more a higher motive than service to Krishna directly. So we could take our life in this world as a kind of day at the office. Like I'm here, I'm not here because I'm so fallen. Doesn't mean I have to believe I'm not fallen. I don't have to believe that I'm like an avatar from the spiritual world, that I came here perfected and I'm just like pretending under Yogamaya's spell to be like these conditioned souls. It's like, no, it's obvious to me what I am, but I don't have to focus on me at all. I can just put that aside. Like a mother, when a mother has a child, she attains a kind of liberation. She does not think about herself the same way that she did when she was a maiden. When the maiden is initiated into motherhood, her life is now for someone else. And that gives an enormous kind of freedom, an enormous kind of like existential crisis. Like, what's the meaning of life? What am I supposed to do? Like, that's not afflicting a good mother. She's afflicted with like trying to get her baby from swallowing a stone or fall off the porch, or like, there's still distress. An open heart will still feel compassion and distress, but it's not about you. You still feel like hope for goodness, but it's not about you and your success. It's like this person, let this person be safe. Let this person be healthy. Let this person be loved and cherished. Let this person flourish. It's like all of the things that you used to feel for yourself. May I have success in this, and may I be freed of this distress. It's now transpersonal. It's out of yourself. So Tadiya Seva is to be in this world and think like, this is Krishna's world. There's a plan here. These are Krishna's jivas. And Krishna, I have some role to be here. I just put on a back burner. Yes, I'm fallen. Yes, I have a long way to go before I'm fit to be in Krishna's direct presence. But for me to be in that direct presence, which is my deepest heart's treasure, let me be absorbed in serving Krishna. What's available to me of Krishna now? If you have a passion to serve Krishna, then you operate at the quantum level where you are, with a desire to be in his direct presence, like Subal Saka or Mother Yashoda. They want eagerly to come back and see that beautiful face that they adore so much. We want to see Krishna's face. We want to be in his presence. We want to be in that realm where our desires for love and service can be fully, perfectly satisfied, because it's all coherent with love and service. This realm is like missionary. We're in a missionary space. But PARAMārTHIKA-ЩRADDHÂ, that Krishna Seva Vasana, the desire to serve Krishna, which is impelled by Paramartha, a supreme treasure, an eternal treasure, not just getting a job that will fade away, healing this body that will still die, but ultimate attainment, not just ultimate attainment of like a liberated condition, but the ultimate attainment of being face to face and holding the hand of Ananda himself. So that's an important distinction. Each person who's thoughtful, if they want their own highest good and to participate in the highest good of all beings, it's very important to separate the milk from the water, like the swan. Take out the Paramarthika-ЩRADDHA from the water of the Lokika-ŠRADDHA, the religiosity, the avoidance of the problems of human life in religion. That tendency needs to come out if we're going to live a truly auspicious life, auspicious for our soul's highest good and for all of our relations. Everyone who's related to us will benefit enormously if we are holding a thread of connection from our heart to the spiritual world by Paramarthika-ŠRADDHÂ. We can't just put it all in the holy name. Well, the holy name came from the spiritual world, so Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, no, finish my rounds, and that's my thread to the spiritual world. It may not be. That could be, in the words of Srila Bhakti Rakshak Sridhar Maharaj, firing blanks. It's making noise, but there's no bullet. There's no substance. It's, you know, too easy to do that. To do externally with our body what we've been told to do and think that that's transcendental. No. Transcendental spiritual growth happens by exercising your own spiritual will. And that comes from the soul that's like, actually, I have nothing to do with this world except that I'm here day in the office. Krishna has a plan for me, but constitutionally, fundamentally, aesthetically, I have nothing to do with this world except for, like, right now it's the place where Krishna and his perfect desire has me placed to serve him. But where I really pertain is in the company of persons like Suvalsaka, Sri Rupa Manjari, Yashodama, Baladev Prabhu. These associates I want to be. Paramarthika-ŠRADDHÂ means at some degree we have felt a profound appreciation for the possibility of being in the company of Radha and Krishna and their associates and being part of that, part of their flow, part of their world. It's not that we identify like, I'm a wretched penitent sinner praying for the mercy of Radha Krishna, but can we just liberate the desire of our soul? Like, I wish I could be in the presence of Radha Krishna, made of the same substance, beautiful like them, clever like them, happy like them, pertaining to their mandali. You know, when, oh when, will Sri Rupa Manjari hold my hands and gaze upon me with her Dumra Loladrik, her smoke-colored eyes, and smile? Or when will I see Subal Saka holding the hand of Krishna while Krishna's weeping in separation? No? And watch the emotions on the face of Suvalji as he understands the depth of Krishna's heart, and also by his special empathy, the heart of Radhika who must be longing for him. When, oh when, will I be in the company of such persons? When, oh when, will I pertain to relationship with such persons who are made of love for Radha Krishna? Not just made of love of God, made of love of Vishnu, made of love of Narayan, made of love of Radha and Krishna. Their bodies are made of love of Radha and Krishna. That means they're extremely like proud, autonomous, confident, creative beings, all unique. In Vaikuntha, everybody's got the same shape. In Braj, everybody's unique. They have their own style of wearing their turban or their sari, the colors they wear, the flowers they choose, the jewels they like. When will I be in that place and express there a new flavor of unique identity that adds a new note in the symphony of those pastimes of prema? When will I be an ornament and embellish and increase the rainbow diversity of the wonderful taste of love that is Braj? That's Paramarthika-ŠRADDHÂ. That's why. What's the why of my being? I want to be there. And to know, gradually to understand how to be there. Like these flashlights that you can turn it this way. My dad had this flashlight when I was a kid. It was like a military flashlight, like a watchman's, this heavy black flashlight. If you turn it like this, the beam goes broad. And if you turn it the other way, it goes like narrow, like a laser point, super bright. So at first, our idea of like, I want to love God is very broad. I want to give my life for God. Okay. Eventually, in some lifetime, we find out like what deity. Oh, I like Krishna. Okay, it's getting narrower. It's getting more bright and more focused. Okay, but Krishna in Dwarka is a great king. Krishna teaching the Bhagavad Gita. Krishna barefoot in Vrindavan. Oh, Krishna barefoot in Vrindavan. Okay, it's getting brighter and tighter. Young Kishore Krishna barefoot in Vrindavan with flowers in his hair and roaming eyes. Glistening eyes as he's looking through the flowering leaves for his beloved. Then, okay, Krishna like a baby that you want to adore and kiss all over his face, like a friend, Krishna like a lover, or Krishna like the lover of my Swamini, and then focusing in onto what rasa. You just Haribol, did I get muted? I don't know how long that was, where I was, but anyway,
Only for a minute.
Paramarthika-ＳRADDHＡ. A motivation for one. There's only one why. Why are you? Paramarthika-ＳRADDHA means when you ask yourself, why am I? There's one clear answer. I exist to serve Krishna in this special way. Once you focus in, bright and focused on what kind of mood you like, and then who in that mood, whose service do you like? And, one has to do their homework. One has to read. One has to listen. Find the association who will feed you from the menu of all the different loving services of Krishna, who can vividly paint for you with feeling some tasteable, attractable idea about what it is to be in the service of Krishna face to face. We have to do our research, read, find the text, the poems, the verses, the prayers that feed our particular mood and start to orient toward that. Shri Rupa says, Janma koti sukritir na labhyate. You can do sukriti making. Just go through the motions of chanting your rounds for koti, Janma koti, like tens of millions of births, and not progress towards Vrindavan. Like it's enormously, there's nothing more inefficient. There's nothing more wasteful than sheer religiosity. Well, I mean, nothing more tragically wasteful when all you had to do was do a little time, do your research, find out what mood attracts you enough to stir your heart. If your heart can stir for a certain mood, lean into that, blow on that coal till it starts to brightly shine, blaze. Anyway, it's a culture of taking care. And that thing brings us to the second point that I want to discuss. I spent plenty of time discussing the difference between lokika-ＳRADDHＡ, worldly faith, and paramarthika-ＳRADDHA, faith, a desire to serve Krishna, the impetus to serve Krishna, that's really about serving Krishna, not even serving Krishna's mission, but serving Krishna. That ultimately, even if we accept that our birth in this world is a day at the office, and we're just here on assignment, even if we accept that and engage ourselves wholeheartedly in attending to the task that Yogamaya maybe has scripted for us, our fate has scripted for us, within our very small circle of influence. We don't have to be acharyas and messiahs to really participate in the welfare of all beings and the fulfillment of Sri Gauranga Mahaprabhu's desire to serve them, their welfare. You don't have to be something huge to do that. Just do your part in your little corner of creation. It's like you are responsible for a little corner of creation, and take care of that corner well, and the dominoes will fall and extend beyond the limits of your reach through the people that you touch and trickle down or spread out, domino effect, ripple effect. You serve the welfare of all beings by tending to your little corner of the creation. If that tending is motivated by one reason, why am I? Why am I doing this? Why do I bother? Because I want to be in the presence of my best friend or my queen and her lover. So that brings us to the difference between Paramarthika-ＳRADDHＡ and Mokshavad. Mokshavad means like the path of seeking liberation, moksha vritti. Sometimes we can see if we haven't fully digested, if we haven't fully faced the initiatic confrontation with death, if we're hiding from that, as most beings do because it's terrifying, then not only are we more inclined towards lokika-ＳRADDHＡ, but even if we think we have paramarthika-ＳRADDHA and we're motivated by a desire to go to the spiritual world, that could still not be bhakti at all. That could still be, well, it's not bhakti at all if you're chanting, but it's like predominated heavily by a desire for moksha. I want out of this world of death. I want the death and the suffering and the discord and the divorce and the war and the geopolitical intrigues and the lying, like a culture of like the whole media and the whole government and the whole, like everybody is just lying. I don't want to be in a place where just nobody's truthful and no one cares about truth. They all just like animals just want to get to the top of the food chain. And I don't want to be here. I don't like it here. That's very different from, I really want to be there. I really want to be in that realm of love, and that my heart will blossom and I will bring nectarian flavor there, because you will not bring nectarian flavor there if your motive to be there is to get out of here, because that's about you. It's not about giving. Moksha is entirely egocentric. I want it to stop. I need it to stop. It's too much. Like, well, that's a very childish or juvenile, from a psychological point of view. That's like a juvenile psyche. Make it stop, mommy. Make it stop, daddy. God, I'm doing what you told me. Make it stop. But an adult is like an adult, a really adulted psyche. You just know life is suffering. That's how it is. Now what? Now, how do I actually navigate this field of suffering and inevitable destruction? And, you know, how do I navigate this tragic realm, this dramatically tragic realm, where it's not surprising. It's not surprising when there's tragedy. It's not surprising. How do you become accustomed without being hardened or jaded? Like, how do you have a soft, open, flowering, creative, fascinated heart and fully have your eyes open to the facts of the world where you live as a realm of death and suffering and tragedy? That's a pretty adult space to get to. And an adulted psyche is the most capable of cultivating a Paramarthika-ＳRADDHA that's not escapist. Mokshavad means escapism. I want it to stop. I want out. And an adult is like, it's not going to stop. This is how it is. So let me settle in to my job here. And let me drink from the cup internally of hope that there is a place that I belong to. My home is that Vrindavan, that Goloka, space of Prem Vilas, Nitya Prem Seva. To drink of that hope, it's like, yeah, it's very important that we cleanse ourselves of our escapist tendencies, because it will condition and warp and constrict and choke our actual love of God from flowering, even if we don't recognize it, but we're actually being enormously motivated by a desire to get out of suffering. Like, we need to make peace with suffering somehow. That's going to help us to have a more honest devotion. It's going to help. And so that brings the point of my proposal. This is like my life's work. This is what I teach in retreats and as a prayer coach, as a teacher, is how to have an integral adulted life, how to pass through the initiations into adulthood. I don't just mean mantra diksha, like Vaishnava initiation into a mantra is one thing, but initiation into your full humanity is something that we don't have anymore, because our tribal, indigenous, whether they're European or American or African or whatever indigenous ancestral cultures our old people came from, there was a time when people of the world had initiatic rites built into like society, the structure of society, like Varnashram Dharma. It's like there's an initiation into adulthood. Just like you can't chant a Vaishnava mantra successfully without receiving it in initiation. Gayatri mantra, it's a ritual. It's built like that by God. It turns on in you when it's given to you by the emissary. And the same thing, like adulthood, the transformation from caterpillar into butterfly, an enormously different kind of person manifests from our juvenile afraid state and our like confident, reconciled with death, warrior, capable, adulted state who's ready to serve life. Like, that's an enormously different thing that in this day and age, almost nobody is crossing that threshold, and people are dying of old age as juveniles, uninitiated. So there's a need for initiation. There's a need for initiation into wholeness. There's a need for help, facilitation. Facilitation comes from Spanish, fácil. Make it easier. It's very hard to carry yourself across the threshold into adulthood, into wholeness, into a healed state of empowered, like, genuineness. It's very hard because the whole part of you that's trying to do that is still identified with the wounding and the traumas and the self-images that were acquired in childhood and things that are not you. And it's like, you think you're that, trying to not be that. And it's like Humans have always needed help. Humans have always needed elders. Humans have always needed processes, rituals, rites of passage, ceremonial holding for that to occur, to enter into wholeness and adulthood. My proposal is that adults can do successful bhajan. That if you haven't become an adult, if you haven't passed that initiation, then to be able to cultivate Paramarthika-śraddhā is going to be very difficult, because there's going to definitely be worldly, bodily orientation. You haven't faced the death yet, and death is like a great guru, you know, suffering, death, the crushing fact, the ego crushing fact that we're not in control. Those things are very important. And so I propose what I wanted to talk about today a little bit is like another understanding of sambandha. You know, we have sambandha, abhideya, and prayojan. These are the three things, like Jaiva Dharma, Bhaktivinoda Thakur's masterpiece, that he's trying to summarize the entire Krishna conscious gospel and teaching in one book. The essence is in Jaiva Dharma, and it's divided in sambandha, abhideya, prayojan. These are the three subjects that are worth talking about. Sambandha is like relationship. Sambandha literally means tied together, how things are tied together. Some together, and bandha, like tying a knot. Like, how is it tied? How is it bound? How are things related? Sambandha Gyan in one sense means like, what is the soul? What is the material energy? What is Bhagavan? What are his Shaktis? You know? And in the higher sense, it means like, how is your soul tied to God in love? Like, what is your siddha-lalasa? What is your eternal aspiration? What is the mood of your soul to serve in what ras? That's the ultimate sense of sambandha gyan, but it doesn't come without a preliminary understanding of like, how does life fit together? Then abhideya is like, okay, now that I understand how life fits together, on the basis of understanding how life fits together, how can I advance myself? What is the methodology to open the flower of my consciousness, open the treasure chest of my highest good fortune potential? That's abhideya. What do I do now? Proactively, what can I do? And prayojan is the goal, about to what end. So how does it all fit together? What can I do to advance myself, and to what end? And you see that this, what do I do, is sitting in the middle between these two things. It's not like first you have to know all the knowledge before you can practice. It's not like first you have to know all the knowledge and then be practicing before you can hear about the goal. It's like actually your practice is going on like a sandwich between understanding the goal and understanding the world where you are, the reality that you're living in. Your abhideya is what you do. Sambandha is, and prayojan is. And abhideya is your activity. Your activity, your sadhan, your spiritual practice, your cultivation of yourself is going on held between these two things. Understanding how it all fits together and understanding why, your own why. Why do I bother to chant this holy name? Why do I bother to cultivate devotion? To what ultimate end? I want to be the dasika of Radharani. I want to bathe the lotus feet of Radharani every morning before she puts them on the ground. When she wakes up from her bed in the early morning in Yavat, before her feet touch the ground, I want to bathe them and worship them. Or whatever desire. Like some service, you know, the more that that flashlight, the beam of our love of God, our desire to love God gets sharper and sharper and brighter and more focused, it's finally like, you know, what mood and under whose guidance and what service most perfectly encapsulates. Yes, that's how I would give my heart to you. Like Bhaktivinoda Thakur, as Kamala Mandri, has something to do with camphor, wants to give karpur, like something about karpur, giving camphor seva, so perfectly encapsulates the desire of Kamala Mandri, who is the heart of Bhaktivinoda Thakur. That's like the flag of his service heart. Doesn't mean that Kamala Mandri doesn't do anything for the other 23 hours and like 50 minutes of the day, you know, not doing anything until it's carpool time. No, she's busy. Kamala Mandri is busy doing all kinds of millions of beautiful services, and every one of them with her whole heart. But there's some reason that she's famous, has a reputation for that karpur seva. In the same way, prayojan means like gradually taking the time that it takes, doing our homework and chanting and slowly leaning in, having good guidance to know how the troubleshooting of like developing such a desire goes, like coming to the point that you can say very precisely, like, my prayojan is this. This is what I want to offer them. This is how I want to give myself, by giving camphor, by braiding the hair with flowers or whatever. So I propose that a new understanding, a new angle of understanding, not a different understanding, but a new angle, a new aspect of understanding Sambandha Gyan, how things fit together, is very urgently wanted and necessary. And I think of it in terms of, I spent many years in the Peruvian Andes, in the high mountains of the Sacred Valley of Peru. And there, the Andean culture, Incan, but pre-Incan also, the Queros, they have a cosmovision that's three worlds represented. It's called the Andean trilogy. So they have a deity, like an emblem, an apu, who presides over each of the three worlds. There's Hanan Pacha, Kai Pacha, and Uku Pacha. And there's the upper world, middle world, and underworld. Upper world has a big condor with the broad wings and flying over the valleys and seeing the big picture of life. The middle world has got the puma, who's like the emblem of the leaders of society. And the underworld is a snake, you know, the serpent. It's like the deep wisdom of the jungle, the primordial understanding of life. You know? So there's like a primordial understanding of nature, you know, the laws of nature, the raw reality of embodiment and cosmic manifestation. Then there's human affairs, your relationships and your vocation, your gift to life. And then there's like the bigger, the higher experience, you know, the condor is floating on the winds, and that's like bhajan, the soul floating on transcendent contemplation of love of God. So I would propose that the human being, whether you like it or not, everybody has got three worlds within yourself. Like even when we chant the Brahma Gayatri, Om Bhur Bhuva Svaha, we're praying that the light, the divine light of grace, the golden sun of Bhakti Devi, Radhika Rani, will fill the three worlds of our being. Bhur Bhuva Svaha, the earthly part, you know, this three distinct and interrelated parts, like a tree. A tree has roots underground, a trunk, you know, it's like meaty core, and then it has branches reaching up into heaven full of flowers. And if you imagine a vine climbing up the tree, the vine starts from the roots. The vine also has roots, by the way. Vines are rooted in the earth just like a tree, and it embraces the bottom of the tree at the roots. It climbs up the trunk, embracing the trunk. It climbs up the branches, embracing the branches, and it pokes out the top of the shady canopy of the tree to catch the sunlight and the moonlight. So the soul is like the vine that's climbing up and staying connected. While we're in this world, we are connected with nature. We are part of nature. While you're embodied, you are not ever at any time, no matter what you're thinking about or dissociating from, you are never at any time outside of the laws of nature. You are never actually disconnected from being part of nature. It's impossible. Your existence is made of the ingredients of nature, the elements. And we're never out of, even if we're alone, completely alone. Like I've tried to be a hermit for a long time living in the woods, and it's like, you know, then you just get obsessed with the phone and looking at what humans are doing. You know, people watch ridiculous things falling off the trampoline, or like there's all these stupid videos and things on the internet full of ridiculous things. And it's for lonely people to just have a vicarious experience of having fun with other people. You know, even if you're alone, you still are human, and the human being is always intrinsically social. Even if you're isolated, there's still a need, fulfilled or unfulfilled, conscious or unconscious, of participating in the unfolding of human history, to be relating with people and to be offering something that shapes, you know, life, to contribute. And the upper world is mostly neglected. We don't think about that. The upper world means that part of us that completely, if the vine reaches that high, you know, it's not that everybody has an upper world cultivation going on at all. Most people in this world don't have any cultivation with PARAMārTHIKA-ŠRADDHÂ. PARAMārTHIKA-ŠRADDHÂ means upper world considerations, considering something that's completely off the earthly platform, off the bodily platform, off the material temporal platform. It's a concern with and a participation in eternity. You know, even if that participation is feeling a heartfelt appreciation. Oh, how the sakhas are playing with Krishna. Oh, how the Sakhis of Radhika are singing with her while she dances in the center of the Ras Lila. Ah, you know, to appreciate such a thing, that there are beautiful associates around Radha and Krishna contributing beautiful service. To be able to appreciate that with even the tiniest speck of emotion is to participate in eternity. That's the beginning of a participation. If you appreciate the Nitya Lila, eternal pastimes of Krishna that have nothing to do with your life in this world and your bodily needs and your concerns and your fears and taking care of you, it has nothing to do with you, with them on their terms. If you can appreciate the beauty of that with even the tiniest little speck of emotional movement, the tiniest little twitch of empathy, that is nice. No, that is an identification. By appreciation, you identify with it. That you identify as something valuable to you. That's something that's, and your values are part of you. So to start to appreciate the Nitya Lila for itself and not for what it might do for us here in this world, bringing it down to our terms, to start to appreciate the Nitya Lila is the beginning of identification with it. It's a little bridge starting, tiny little bridge, you know, like a thread that needs to be thicker to walk across it, you know? But so I propose that the human being, uh, we're talking here about Paramarthika-ＳRADDHＡ. This is, you know, a circle of devotees, mostly, and the concern of the devotees is devotion. And devotion is only true and auspicious and successful if it's based on Paramarthika-ＳRADDHA. And Paramarthika-ＳRADDHA, transcendental faith, means orienting to the higher world. And to do that successfully, I hope the images and connections are clear. The vine has to stay embracing the bottom and the middle. It embraces and goes all the way, which means, like, I was talking with a friend yesterday, and this is a story I've heard many times. Maybe every single devotee I know has a story very like this. That when they first started chanting, it was amazing. They first started chanting the Maha Mantra, and it was so much was happening for them. And I remember when I was first chanting, I was in Washington State, I was in Olympia, and I remember chanting japa sitting in a treehouse, and I had to like hold on to like not fall out. I felt like my body was rocking so hard from the waves of feeling that I was having that I felt I would fall out of the tree. So I had to like sit down in the treehouse and keep chanting japa because it was like I couldn't control. I couldn't control the effect that the holy name had on me. It's not so common that my chanting is like that now. I don't know how many days in a year that happens, but that was most days in the beginning. Now, wait a minute, I've learned a lot more since then. I have a much clearer, focused idea about my goal. But at that time, like my friend was saying yesterday, he said when he was first came to the devotees in bhakti yoga and chanting, he had been doing a lot of mindfulness meditation. He had been on a spiritual quest. He had been in a state of like youthful fascination, trying to find answers, you know, applying himself, doing breath work and yoga. And, you know, there's a whole, me also, I was doing breath work at the time and spending a lot of time doing like vision quest, sitting in the forest alone. And I was doing a lot of very bodily things. Meditation of just like, meditation is also just like sitting and allowing to occur what's occurring. You know, thoughts come, feelings come. Like meditation is, for those who actually have practiced sitting meditation, like it's very rich and dynamic and diverse thing. It's not just like sit and be still and try to have no thoughts. It's like just allow to occur without getting involved or analyzing it. And wow, so much stuff can happen. Your mind drops into an alpha wave and visions come. And there's this room when there's fascination and creativity and mindfulness. And I would say this is related to the part of us that's like underworld or pure nature, just nature. It's not about your relationships. Meditation is not about relating with people, and it's not about your vocation. It's just about being in the present moment. The underworld aspect, the you know, where the root begins of the ascent of our soul, the successful movement of our soul toward the prayojan, towards the upper world of actual siddha-lalasa, you know, swarupa vesh bhajan. That's coming. I'm proposing a system. I don't say it's the only way. I'm just proposing like this is sensible, logical thing to consider. You don't have to agree, but it might help your own reflections and discoveries to consider that if you had, again, a body, an embodiment practice, a meditation practice, something that is not about philosophy and it's not about service, it's just about being, the experience of being, and come back to this very honest thing to just be with your experience. If you can't be with what's going on in you, if you don't have time or room for that, and you have to like put sadhana on top of it, or put philosophy, or put service, or put busyness on top of all that, everything you're building it's affected by a dishonesty. Because there's something very honest about accepting your experience and allowing your experience in the present moment. Like nature, Mother Nature, she has no future plan. You know, there's a design, there's laws of nature, but nature means underworld, the aspect of our relationship with nature means just what's actually happening right now. There's a constant adaptation process. You know, there's a constant adjustment. You know, there are seasons that come through externally, but there's seasons of our life internally. And how is the foliage, the flora and fauna of our internal ecosystem adjusting and moving and responding to the present season of life that I'm in? You know, to the time of day that I'm in. Like, and from that basis, if a person can feel like, I feel uncomfortable, I feel afraid, you can feel it in your body. You can start to feel, if you feel your body, like where your cells are holding undigested trauma, where your cells are holding unmetabolized anxiety just about like money and being alive in the world, and all that stuff is like crystallizing your body. And if you sit and feel your body, you'll start to feel kind of gross sometimes and uncomfortable and strange for sure. And if you can be with the process of life as it actually is and feel what you actually feel, then the vine grows. And at the human realm, you might actually be able to deal with people as they actually are and be able to accommodate their feelings without being overwhelmed. Like we're all of us in this day and age have a great deal of trouble with actual just basic human contact. We have to project some persona. We have to keep some safe distance from us and other people because the idea of actually feeling somebody else's stuff is too much because I already have so much of my stuff that I can't deal with and haven't figured out. And it's like, well, you're just not letting it occur. You don't have to fix it. Just if you started with the underworld, meditation, mindfulness, sensitivity, movement, just get out and like, if I go outside and put my bare feet on the earth and just start letting my voice make the sounds of how I feel and my body move, like give expression, just no thoughts. The rule is no thought and no words and no analysis and no explanation. Just express what you actually feel, what's going on. If I let my body move and my mouth make sounds of doing that, I will find myself in a spontaneous state that ends up with my hands raised in praise. First, there's some chunkiness that's like, I'm like getting unconstipated of the unprocessed feelings. They're like passing out. And then it's like the nature, actually nature herself is all the trees are raising their hands to heaven. It's like our nature, especially if you're initiated, have chosen that you want to love God, get your accumulated stuff out of the way by allowing it to metabolize, let nature do her thing. And you'll see that your nature is to praise God. It is to raise your hands. It is to celebrate. It is to give thanks. And there's ways of doing that without even adding on a layer of like human words and morals and religiosity and dogma and theology. It's just an expression of the self. And when that's intact and honest, you can add on top of that philosophy that's an ornament to that and not paving over it. As soon as the middle world of our like utilitarian needs and our beliefs and our morals starts to pave over and suppress what we actually feel in the present moment, it's no longer honest. And I believe that's like clipping the root of the vine, and it's gonna dry up before it can reach any kind of upper world. Actually reach into the starlit heavens of meditating with a melted heart on serving Krishna's lotus feet. So first, we have to deal with our own self and our like nature, what's occurring in us. On top of that, we can extend that thing, not replace it or change gears, but add on top of that honesty of our own experience, actual tangible sensitivity to other people so that our relationships become fluid, dynamic, liberated just, you know, from their mutual lockbox of projection, gridlock of mutual projection and reactivity. We can start to feel our gift. Mother Nature is the creatrix of all forms in the world. So if we have our roots in nature, as we come into embody humanness, our vocation will occur like a fruiting, like a flowering of nature. You have a nature, you have a swadharma and a swabhav. You have an adhikar. It's built in you. You have it. Your astrology would tell you all about it if you had the right person to read it. But it's there. You're programmed a certain way in this life. And if you're honest at the root, that natural programmation, that's the only thing you could do honestly in this life, will start to come out. Your vocational gifts will start to come out. And when your vocational gifts are coming out, then you are an honest occurrence. And that means that everything you're doing is not a reactivity or an avoidance or a dissociation from who you are. And who you are is also at this level mortal and vulnerable to destruction. So you deal with that too more fluidly when you're creative and fascinated with life and you feel buoyed by the Shakti rising from the earth of nature. Then it's much more possible to confront the initiation of the reality of death and to adult. And as we adult, then you don't need to escape. You realize that like this is the facts of life, is death and suffering, and like how to be an adult and be there for others and like metabolize the difficulties of life, the challenges. That honest person who's not afraid and needing to escape, when they hear the pastimes of Krishna and they apply themselves like lectio divina, read a little bit of the pastimes connected with the kind of rasa that you like, and then stop and reflect on it. And reflect, the first thing that will come is like, the first sprouting or movement of emotion is, oh, how nice. How nice. How nice it would be to, how Subhasaka is holding Krishna's hand. And just leaning in, like lectio divina means you read, oh, Subhasaka is very attached to holding Krishna's hand. And then lectio divina, this is like a Catholic contemplative practice of reading about Jesus, and then you stop and you pray and meditate, and you go in, you read the Bible, and then you go inside, and it gets more rich. It comes alive in you because the holy word of God is not just one sentence of factual information, it's all seeds. So you read a little bit, oh, okay, this verse, Vrajavilastava Raghunath Das Goswami saying, Subhasaka is very attached to holding Krishna's hand. You close your eyes and you lean into that and you think about that, and oh, how nice to hold Krishna's hand. How nice must be the mood of Subhasaka, who knows both Radha and Krishna's heart, and he's with compassion for Krishna and love for Krishna. And as you lean in, start to feel some kind of empathy, some kind of inspiration comes by the mercy of Subhasaka himself, by the mercy of the personalities that we worship. By thinking about them, their own grace comes back to us. It's a reciprocal thing, and we start to feel some insight into, how is he holding that hand? Emotionally, how is he holding? Like physically, how is he holding? Like, what is it like to hold that hand? And then start to feel the first sprouting of emotion, which is like, that is so nice. Wow. How nice to hold Krishna's hand. Hold Krishna's hand, not as an object, but hold it with the hand that's made a very specific mood, a very specific relationship, a way of holding his hand. Not just hold hand, but how would he hold the hand and how would I hold the hand? And then after a wave of appreciation, naturally the next thing that might come is like, when will I do that? When will I be able to do it? You know, this is, now we're really getting somewhere. Now our upper world is really being cultivated. The vine of our soul is really reaching up towards the prayojan. We're actually participating in the prayojan when we start to feel, when will I? That means I want and I have hope. And alas, I'm very far. I'm not there. I don't know when it will be possible, but I need it. And that's like the next layer. You know, first is I appreciate it, that someone else can do it. The second thing is, when could I do service like that? When will I wash the feet of Radharani? And then finally, a deep feeling of, I need that. I must do that. Why am I? I am for that. I am to give myself in this, to adore them. And this is Paramarthika-ŠRADDHÂ. Paramarthika-ŠRADDHÂ means the Krishna Seva Vasana, the inclination to serve Krishna, which is motivated by the supreme goal. But that supreme goal, if it's not rooted in honesty at all the other levels of our being, if that light of, Savitri, the grace of God that's mentioned in the Brahma Gayatri, isn't touching Bhur, Bhuva, then Svaha, if it's not touching everywhere, if the vine is no longer rooted in the ground and embracing the rest of the tree, if it's not rooted, it'll dry up. If it's not embracing the tree, it'll fall off. You understand the analogy? It's like, we've heard so much that we're not the body, that we've misunderstood that like we should be entirely dissociated from the fact of our embodiment. That doesn't work. It's dishonest and it doesn't work. The only genuine dissociation from our embodiment comes when a holistic adulted person is thinking, I need to serve Radha Krishna. I need to be in their pastimes. I need a body that is made of prema, that is fit to please them, sensually please them, emotionally please them, socially laughing, joking with them. I need that. That's healthy dissociation. And if we don't have if we don't have integrity, basically, the point is, if we're expressing a desire to go to the spiritual world without a holistic human integrity, the chances are extremely high that that's actually mokshavad, or enormously influenced by the desire for escapism, desire for liberation and escaping our own problems, which is entirely disqualifies us from Vraj Bhav, which has nothing to do with that. It's self-forgetting. The point of Vraj Bhav is it's self-forgetting. So first, get yourself in order so that you can go beyond it. But if yourself is not in order, you can't go beyond, because these unintegrated parts they're like crying out like baby birds in a nest. You have to feed them. You have to. You can't get away from them. They haunt you like hungry ghosts. The unintegrated, avoided, repressed parts of you will haunt you like hungry ghosts. Unless you have an extremely powerful samskar from previous life, and you have the great mercy of a Rasik Vaishnava who is, transmitted to you such a spontaneous, it's like Kripa Siddha. Unless you've been given the Kripa Siddha of profound greed automatically, and that you actually don't have the patience to deal with your own integration or like healing work, you don't have the patience for it. You just don't. You're not escaping it. You just can't care about anything else anymore because your heart is afflicted, wounded with the desire to love Radha Krishna. That case is okay. You don't listen to what I'm saying. But very few of us have got that Kripa Siddha wounding. And therefore, we're going to have to deal with pacifying the hungry ghosts of the unintegrated parts of us that are like, I am not your enemy. I just need you to deal with me so that we can get this whole sambandha situated. The fitting together, sambandha, the fitting together of all your parts so that you can do abhideya, guided by a clear prayoja. So this discussion could be elaborated in many ways as a religious commentary on also the deficiencies of institutionalism, so on and so forth. It really takes individuated individuals. You have to individuate to do bhajan. And but that's how do you individuate? You're always part of a greater sambandha. You do depend on many factors like nature and your acharyas, and your ancestors are having an effect. And there's so many things that are involved in the great sambandha, the web of life. You're a little microcosm, and then there's a macrocosm, and then there's a bigger picture about Krishna's pleasure. So, these are some introductory words. We have a little time left if there's any question. I didn't mean to speak so long. I apologize. I meant to leave more time for dynamic discussion, but so it is.
Thank you. So I think that I will unpin you, and then we have a circle of friends here, and open it up for discussion, questions, comments. And if you'd like to unmute and turn your video on so we can see each other, if you're comfortable with that. We'll open the floor up.
Andreita, Brooke, Tadeo,
Rather, if I can have this, I can feel that it's a little space for me. So I will start with expressing my gratitude. It's very inspiring to I struggle with using proper words, but that you, sorry for my English, I'm not native English, so, but I'm grateful that you vocalize and structuralize path of madness, because for me, path of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, it's a path of madness. It's just how to combine being conditioned and eager to have a relationship with the most beautiful couple in the whole creation. It's like complete paradox, and I feel that for myself, I have to be crazy to have this kind of goal, but it's a craziness I cannot give up, and it's you're a big part of it, Tamalji. Thank you for this.
Haribo, Radhesham.
Radhesham. So I will also add, because I also do some meetings with people. Maybe we don't talk on such a esoteric depth. Nevertheless, I really appreciate this point of being honest. It's so important, because at least in our discussions, I pointed that God does not require perfection. It requires honesty, and then he will lead us into perfection. He has his miracle ways to lead us in his perfect way and hers perfect way. That's my feeling.
Aho. Yeah, we depend on their grace for sure, not our own activities and understanding. Nitai Lila, you want to say something? Devi.
Hare Krishna. I have a question. Thank you so much. I was just curious, like, where would you categorize a person that does not necessarily, cannot yet like relate to Radha and Krishna and serving them, but has the desire to, like, is attracted to the advanced Vaishnavas and has desire to serve them? Like that's their that's their desire, that's their inspiration. Like how would you classify that in the terms of Shraddha?
I mean, it all depends on also Vaishnavas. If a high class transcendental person, transcendental Vaishnava, to serve them can also be worldly motivation, or it can be just simply like, that's a holy person, I love them. Like the people, they ask if you could have lunch with anybody from all history, who would, so many people say Jesus. Like you just want to be with a holy person. It's a natural attraction to just like be with and give your heart to like somebody whose heart is clear as crystal, who's like every cell of their body is humming with, love. Then sure, that would be Paramarthik. But it would be impossible to spend time serving Vaishnava and not absorb their heart to some degree. Like you are made of the association you keep, and to love someone honestly like that, then you will absorb their feelings for sure, and it would unavoidably occur. Maybe that's the fastest road actually to getting Paramarthika-ＳRADDHA, is to love genuinely and sincerely. Whereas there are others who give enormous service for decades to acharyas. They're very close to them, personal servants and secretaries, and they can be very, very, very close. But somehow or other, they apparently were affected by worldly ambitions, because when the acharya leaves, they start fighting for position and things like that. And it's clear, like, oh, you didn't get the point of this person at all. So they could be very close. So sadhu sangha, that association, like my Gurudev would say, like, I don't accept physical association as real association. That's not proof. The real association with the Vaishnava is to, my Gurudev said a beautiful thing. He said, really, sadhu sangha means to know what is in the heart of that sadhu when he's taking harinam. When he's chanting, where is his heart really at? So at the first, a good fortune would be to be attracted to a transcendental person and just love them. Like that is the famous path of good fortune, you know, and simple-heartedness. Vaishnavata and Saralata, or like being a devotee and being simple, they're synonymous. So I just love you because you're beautiful. You're the most wonderful thing I've ever seen. You know, I never saw anybody like you. What can I do for you? You know, I just want to be near you and help. You know, it's just very satisfying to give something to someone beautiful, to feel like useful and affectionate, and to feel their appreciation. Like, wow, this is a miracle. Little old me, I'm actually doing something that this holy transcendent person appreciates and values and is grateful for. I'm like, oh my God, it's happening. It's happening. My life is successful. Like, oh, I'm actually serving divinity, and divinity's pleased with me. And it's obvious because they're genuinely grateful. But that would surely lead, you know, their real reciprocity is they may say thank you outwardly or like hold their hand and give a blessing, but really their whole idea of compassion, the compassion of the heart of the Vaishnavas, is to share the desire for Braj Bhakti. They don't have a separate idea of compassion. If it's like, bless you that your karma stops, like to them, that's not compassion at all. Real compassion is like, may you also have such feelings. May you also be blessed, crowned with the desire to serve Krishna according to your soul's inclination. So it's like synonymous, but it may be sequential. You know, to serve Vaishnavas is synonymous, but it may be that it grows. Those feelings will grow out of that, become obvious later. And maybe it's also something to be cultivated. Maybe it's also something to consider. I'm serving the Vaishnav, but am I in a comfort zone? Maybe it's very sincere and simple-hearted, but I'm in a comfort zone, or is there like more that I could learn about who are they really? What do they really want? You know? Or am I just taking things at a surface value, and I'm getting such a nice feeling from serving the sadhu that I'm staying there, and I'm not really leaning in deeper to like, who is the guru? The guru is the personification of an ideal. Yes, our guru is a person, you know, or the Vaishnava, the saints, that's an individual entity, a beautiful, unique personality. But more profoundly, they are the embodiment of an ideal of Braja Prema. So who are they? They are that siddha-lalasa. They are that, you know, who is Rupa Goswami? Who is Raghunath Goswami? They are the crying out for the service of Radhika. That's what they are in this world. The crying out for that has entered into this world to share nothing else but the pollinating transmission that we might also cry out for something similar.
Thank you.
Yeah, wonderful question. Thank you. Yeah. I guess that's just about our time. But it's been wonderful to sit with you. Thank you for giving me the chance. Also to Maharaji, who's not physically present right now. Swamiji, who's opened the space of discussions to Tadatmya. Grateful to his friendship, and so all of you. Good to be together. Good to share these things.
Thank you so much, Tamal Krishna, for so many wonderful points and you know, reconnecting us to our sambandha and focusing on that to have a firm foundation. Oh, I see. Maybe Sudevi Sundari. Did you want to say something, Sudevi, before we end?
Sorry, that was a mistake.
Oh, okay. Okay.
But while I'm
No
here,
problem.
maybe it wasn't a mistake. Just thank you so much. That was super, super, super beautiful. Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for listening.
Thank you. So in ending, could you share with us ways that people could get in touch with you, Tamal, to further the conversation or questions or whatever people might need?
Yeah, sure. I mean, there's some things that I do. I have space in my life for a few like one-on-one, like you know how you have like a what do you call it? A personal trainer. That if you go to the gym with a personal trainer, they make you do all this stuff, and then it's more motivated. It's like I do like prayer coaching. I help people put their own little cosmovision and sambandha together, and walk people through a process of their individuating, adulting, getting their whole holistic system together, and then adulting to the point of defining really as best they can in a natural pace their why, their eternal aspiration, the crowning goal of their life to serve Krishna in a special way that suits their soul. And also do some retreats now and again in different places around the world, make immersive retreats that deal especially with this three worlds, underworld processes, middle world, human. Underworld means like embodiment in nature and like real-time mindfulness and awareness and expression, like pre-verbal stuff. Then human, like clarifying vocation and relationships and things like that. And then upper world, lila kata, fireside, ceremonial lila kata. And pretty soon I'll have some kind of website or something together. But for now, anybody who's interested to get any support with this kind of things that we're talking about today, can email me, tamalkrishna@gmail.com, TAMALKRSNA@gmail.com. And yeah.
Thank you so much. And thank you all for joining today. And hopefully we'll see you again. Thank you.
Radhe Radhe, Radhe Sham.
Radhe